Hello campers, this is the Suburban Camper and this is a video about 12 problems you may encounter with the 9th generation Chevrolet Suburban, which covers the 2000 to 2006 model years. These are all problems I have experienced in my 2000 Chevy Suburban LT 1500. My Suburban has the 5.3 liter Vortec engine and it had 167,000 miles on it when I bought it, and it currently has 194,000 miles. Most of the problems featured in this video are common problems and some are known issues. Now, 12 problems may seem like a lot, but keep in mind my Suburban is now 21 years old and some of the problems are simply age related. So please do not let this video discourage you from buying a Suburban. The fact is, I love my Suburban and it's been a reliable vehicle which has never broken down or left me stranded. Please note, reliable does not mean you will never have costly repairs. The guideline I have followed over the years is you should not buy a used vehicle, particularly one that is 10 plus years old, unless you are willing and able to spend $1,000 to $2,000 per year for repairs and maintenance. Now, I believe, and my experience tells me, the Suburban will typically fall on the low side of this range, but regardless, if it needs something to enable it to safely get me just about anywhere to camp and back home again, it is well worth the investment. And given the low acquisition cost, you're still coming out way ahead. Here is the order of the 12 problems featured in this video. If you only need info on a particular problem, please feel free to jump ahead. Also, all these problems are featured on the Common Repairs page on my SuburbanCamping.com website, and there are links to resources for obtaining more information on the issue and, most importantly, how to get it fixed. I will start with the most common problem you will encounter when searching the internet. It is what I refer to as the ticking time bomb, which is the dreaded and known issue of lifter tick in the 5.3 liter engine. I did not hear it when I inspected my Suburban because I did not follow my silence is golden used car buying guideline. The lady I bought it from just kept talking the whole time I was inspecting the vehicle. I was too focused on getting the inspection done quickly, as I knew I needed to act quickly on this original owner garage beauty that was priced right. Shortly after I bought my Suburban, I took it to the dealer for some repairs and a complete inspection for some peace of mind. And I told them I noticed a tick coming from the engine bay. They diagnosed it as lifter tick and told me it may or may not cause an issue. There really is no way to know. And their recommended solution, if I wanted to fix it, was engine replacement. The reason for this is it's cheaper to replace the engine rather than tearing it down to repair it. This is what the lifter tick sounds like. And here's the sound isolated. Not good, right? Keep in mind, this is a pushrod engine, so the sound is coming from the lower end, and I was always told lower end metal on metal sounds are never good. I exhaustively researched the issue, and yes, I tried some of the internet fixes such as Marvel Mystery Oil, which seemed to help, but the tick lives on. Mine is particularly noticeable at startup after it's sat for a while, so I always give it time for the oil to quiet the engine before I take off. So now it is 30,000 miles later and I have had absolutely no engine issues. My Suburban runs great, has plenty of power, and there are no signs of it burning oil. Quite frankly, I think the best advice I found on the internet is to turn up the radio and ignore the tick. But keep in mind, it could lead to serious engine damage if it causes a lifter to fail and in turn allows a valve to collide with a piston. I plan on just babying it at startup and then ignoring it as best I can unless it becomes a serious problem, and then I would just replace the engine. In the meantime, I would just be prepared in case the engine fails and leaves me stranded somewhere. Would I buy another Suburban if it had the lifter tick? Probably not, because the sound drives me crazy and it makes me think about the problem every time I drive it. However, if I could get a great deal on it, then I would probably buy it because my experience so far tells me this problem is just not an issue that needs to be addressed. Next up are the sliding seats. If it has not already been fixed, I can pretty much guarantee you either have or will have this problem, as it plagued many GM vehicles produced around this time. If either the driver's seat or front passenger seat is not adjusted all the way forward or backward, it will move slightly forward when stopping and slightly backwards when accelerating. I say slightly, but it is a highly annoying issue caused by a simple little spacer on the adjustment rail wearing out prematurely. Fortunately, there is someone on the internet to the rescue. It's not an easy fix, as it requires you to remove the seats, but he makes it as easy as it can be with not only a step-by-step video, but also step-by-step printed instructions when you order the parts from him. It's probably the best deal you ever find on the internet. Again, you can find links to all this info at suburbancamping.com. Next is one of the easiest problems to fix, which is the service four-wheel drive message that pops up in your driver information window, which is located where you can see the security message flashing here. It sounds serious, and my first thought went to a transfer case issue, which is a common issue, but it was just the switch on the dash failing. It is a relatively cheap fix, and you can easily do it yourself, since it's easy to remove the dash cover, and then you just unplug the old switch and plug in the new one. Steering column noises are the next problem. These fall into two categories. One is the steering column bearing, and the other is the steering shaft. When I bought my Suburban, I noticed movement up and down in the steering wheel, and I had this addressed at the dealer by replacing the steering column shaft bearing, which cost about $400. Since then, I've also noticed a rattle in the steering column when going over bumps. This is the known issue of slack in the steering shaft. The shaft has two parts, and it's designed to collapse in the event of an accident. Over time, a void in the space between the two parts develops, and then it rattles. There is a short-term fix of applying grease to the void and a long-term fix of replacing the part. It's only slightly annoying to me, so I've not done anything to address it. You will likely experience problems with your side mirrors. I discovered the side mirrors would not adjust when I inspected my Suburban. It's an easy and inexpensive fix to replace the switch, which took care of this problem. In addition to this, the driver's side mirror was all hazy and I could not see very much in it. It is a heated mirror, and they used a fluid sandwiched between the layers of glass to conduct the heat. The problem is the fluid leaks into the top layer, which causes the haziness. The original mirror has two wire connectors, and I believe one is for the mirror switch and one is for the heat. I was unable to locate a mirror with two wires, so I replaced it with a one-wire mirror, and while I'm not totally sure the defrost function works, I've not had any issues with it freezing up. The mirrors just pop off and on, so this problem is an easy fix. My front passenger window did not work when I bought my Suburban. Again, the price was right. This was one of those repairs I had done when I took it to the dealer right after I purchased it, and that cost $500 to replace the window regulator, which is a common problem, and this was proven by the fact that shortly after I picked it up from the dealer, my right rear window stopped working. Of course, the dealer said this had nothing to do with the repair, so this is when I started doing my own repairs. The part was about $100, and I would rate the difficulty at a 6 on a 10-point scale. The stereo in my Suburban was all treble and no bass. Upon closer inspection, I could see the subwoofer was separated from the housing. I could not find a subwoofer replacement that would fit properly, but in the process of searching, I found a repair kit to take care of that speaker. The sound was better, but still quite tinny, so I decided to replace all the speakers in the doors, and in the process, found they had also separated from their housing. There is one word to solve this speaker problem, and it is Crutchfield. They are truly the experts in car audio and will provide everything you need to do it yourself. I only spent $20 on each speaker, and that included the wiring harness and the mounting plate. And now it sounds great. I don't think the issue with the speakers was caused by the previous owners cranking up the tunes, but rather just age, as the woofers simply dry out over time. Coming in at number 8 is the parking brake. This barely held my Suburban in place when I bought it, and the reason was the cable was all stretched out, which just happens over time. There is an adjuster that is easy to get to, but mine had no adjustment left, as you can see here. The Suburban does not use the disc brakes as the parking brake, and instead it is a separate drum brake on the rear wheels. You can adjust the drum to reduce the clearance to account for the cable stretch, but this is a short-term fix, which I did, but now it's back to no longer holding, so now I need to get the cable replaced. Next up are oil leaks. The fact is, all vehicles develop oil leaks over time, and the Suburban is no exception. The biggest leak in mine right now is the rear main seal between the engine and transmission, and they remind me of this every time I get an oil change. At this point, I'm not too worried about it because I lose less than a quart of oil in between oil changes. This is a big and fairly expensive job, and I will get it replaced soon, but I may wait until the transmission needs service and or an overhaul to save on labor cost. The other source of my oil leaks are the valve covers. It's minor seepage at this point, and when I replace the spark plugs and ignition coils at 200,000 miles, I will replace the valve cover gaskets at that time. Problem number 10 is the thermostat. My Suburban was cooling fine, but it took forever for the heat to kick in, which told me the thermostat was probably stuck open. If you don't mind working in a tight space, this was a relatively easy fix, but I had to do it twice due to a leak, which required me to go back in and apply some Permatex. Good news is now I get heat very quickly. After a heavy rain, I took off from a red light and was doused with water from above. I have the LT Suburban, which has a sunroof, and that was the source of the water problem. This is common for any vehicle with a sunroof, and after 20 years of debris buildup, my drains were pretty clogged up. I found a great tool to clean out the drains. It's called the Drain Weasel. Just feed it down the holes located in the front corners and crank away, and water will be flowing in no time. It's important to note you can get the entire shaft through the drain. If it stops before you get all of it in, then there is blockage and you need to weasel your way through it. The Drain Weasel was designed for cleaning bathroom sinks, and it works great at that too. And finally, coming in at number 12 are the power outlets. One of the great features of the Suburban are the multiple power outlets. There are 2 in the front, 1 for the middle seats, and 1 in the back. The problem was the only power outlet that worked in my Suburban was the front far right plug, and for the longest time I just lived with it. But once I started fully dialing in my off-grid power solutions, I realized I really needed the other outlets to work, so I dove into the fuse box to see if that was where the issue lied. Sure enough, this one 20 amp fuse labeled aux power fixed the other 3 outlets, and now I use them all the time. So that covers off on the 12 problems I've experienced with the 9th generation Chevy Suburban. But while filming some shots for this video, I discovered one more. My Suburban sat for 3 weeks while I was out of town, and apparently that was the perfect opportunity for a rodent to build a home on my engine. It's definitely a common problem, but certainly not exclusive to the Suburban. Okay, after spending $900 on the initial problem repairs at the dealership right after I bought the Suburban, I've spent about $600 on parts for repairs over the past 30,000 miles. But keep in mind, I've done all the work myself, which saved a bunch of money. So if you add what I spent on repairs to the $3,800 purchase price, then I have a total of $5,300 invested in a vehicle that allows me to camp just about anywhere and be prepared for anything. I call that a great deal. Looking forward, I'm planning to put about $2,000 into the Suburban in the short term to get the rear main seal fixed, replace some suspension parts, and treat it to some new spark plugs, coils, and fuel injectors to celebrate its 200,000th mile. I see no reason with proper maintenance it will easily reach 300,000 miles with minimal additional repair costs, and I'm looking forward to all the places it will take me over the next 100,000 miles. If you learned something from this video, please subscribe, and if you'd like to learn more about how to camp just about anywhere and be prepared for anything in a Chevy Suburban, please visit my website, suburbancamping.com. Thank you very much.